AI is stereotypical. It's a very sort of it's very black and white.
The images are they're flawless in an almost like a canny, like a scary way.
I was a little bit sort of prepared on maybe getting sued.
Welcome to the Next Gen Retail Pod. We're a group of companies sitting here at Mariatorget in the Next Gen Retail Hub, and we are curious about lots of things. And today I am particularly, or not only now, but in general, I'm very, very curious about AI at the moment. And I guess there are many of us who have been trying out some things, ChatGPT or similar image generating tools, and they're just more for fun and playing around with it a bit. But at least among people I talk to around, we haven't really found any we haven't really internalized the use of AI in private or work life. And I am, there are lots of things around this that I'm very, very curious about. And when a few weeks ago I read an interview in Vogue with Carl-Axel Wahlström, who is sitting next to me now. Welcome, I'm very, very privileged to have you here. I read about this AI fashion magazine, was created 100% in AI, and I was very, very intrigued by how you were then reasoning around it and the product in itself, etc. So I went and bought it physically, and I brought it back to the office, and we were all flipping through it. And then, so I'm very thrilled having you here to discuss these things and just to understand a little bit more around AI. And I'm using the term AI. I know that we need to disentangle that a bit. What is AI and what is generative AI, etc., etc. But I'm thrilled to have you here. Welcome. Just a quick introduction then. Who is Carl-Axel Wahlström?
So thank you for inviting me here. I have been working as an art director, specialized in fashion marketing for the last 15 years. And I think I was thinking before I came here, what's the red thread throughout my career so far? And I think that technological improvements and revolutions and sort of new technology in general has had a huge impact on me. When I started 2006 in the advertising world, YouTube was a big thing. So of course, as a junior art director, I started doing like films for clients. And then the digital camera came, and I started a fashion magazine because I was then sort of able to create a fashion magazine without having to pay for the actual analog film, which is a big cost for magazines. And from there on, I have sort of built a career as a creative based on new technological improvements. So when generative AI came, I sort of just dived right into it, and here we are now.
Could you just help me then disentangle the different AI before we go into the magazine copy that we have here that is a fantastic brick of a fashion piece. But before that, could you just help AI, generative AI, there are lots of other things. What is what and when? Just a little bit of a history around it.
Yeah, so I would say that AI is sort of like the word of it all. It's like the umbrella here. So AI as a theory was sort of first sort of invented or thought of 1950 by a mathematical guy called Alan Turing. He sort of said, if you have a computer and a human and both gives you the same answer, then the computer wins. So he had that sort of thought. Yep. And then 1956, a group of scientists in America sort of invented the word AI, artificial intelligence. And during the 60s, AI had like a large hype, almost similar to what AI is now. But then during the 70s, there was this AI winter, as it's called, during the 70s and 80s and up until mid-90s. And that was because we didn't have sort of the computer power. So our thoughts around AI wasn't made into reality. And then sort of during 2000 and up until now, AI has been a big part of our life without us sort of knowing it. I mean, we have it in the face recognition in the mobile phone and on so many other places, and on Google Maps, for example. But then generative AI, that's sort of like a genre of AI. I used to say that generative AI is the fun part and AI is sort of the serious, a little bit boring part, because AI can be sort of, it can be used on all sorts of areas, whether I would say generative AI is more creative and sort of more specialized into the creative world. I mean, it can definitely be used in other areas also, but it's sort of the fun artistic AI here.
How would you define then generative AI?
It's a synthetic creativity in a way. I mean, it is creative, but it's only creative because of the sort of the data that we have inputted in it. So, I mean, all AI is sort of trained. It has like a training material, but generative AI can sort of create new things out of old existing things, which I think is sort of the power of it.
When I started then looking at Copy, the magazine, I was really impressed by how also the thinking behind it. That to me, it's innovative, it's a little bit provocative, and it's explorative. And just how did you come up with the idea, and how did you create like that the magazine?
Yeah, so generative AI is still in research and is still in sort of in the laboratory phase. I mean, it's not formed yet. So with that in mind, I started working in the late summer of 2022. At that time, generative AI was quite distorted, and you could see the potential, but you couldn't really see sort of how far it will go and how fast it will go. But I started working with generative AI in the sense that I created images with text prompts. So I was writing and I was getting results as images. And what I sort of realized quite early was that AI is stereotypical. It's a very sort of it's very black and white, and that is because of the training data that we as humans have sort of trained the AI on. And that was quite interesting because it made me question what I have been doing as a creative and what the whole retail industry that I work within, especially in fashion, has been doing, because the training material is sort of every image that has been uploaded on the internet. So we can sort of set the time here, so that, like from the 2000 up until now. But the weird thing is that even the generative AI is as its best representing like a 50s image or 80s image or a 70s image, because those decades was in a sort of stylish way very clear. Whether when the internet came in 2000, we were more jumping back and forth between these old decades. So sort of this whole sort of cultural weirdness made me want to dig deep into AI.
And it's been lots and lots of stuff written about this, the magazine. You've been in lots of different interviews, and I said Vogue and La Repubblica wrote something the other day and stuff like that. Were you expecting this kind of hype or attention?
Yeah, I'm not cocky, but I will say yes, because but and it's not because of me. It's because of the technology is so amazing, and of course people are interested and sort of want to know more about it. I mean, I consume hundreds of articles and interview each month of other people talking about it because I find it so interesting. So I can definitely sort of understand the need for knowledge here. Yeah. But I had a lot of fears that the magazine would be sort of hated and that people would be provocative about it, and that also I was a little bit sort of prepared on maybe getting sued and so on. So my name is only written on one place in the whole magazine, and so it's a quite like anonymous publication, and that I think represents sort of my fear of sort of stepping into an unknown territory.
Yeah. Just one question then for the people that are really a little bit more into this, like the actual tools that you use. What have you tried? What have you done? What is it that you use? What basically?
Yeah. So in the late summer of 2022, three different softwares were sort of introduced. It was DALI from OpenAI, which also owns ChatGPT. Then you had Mid-Journey, which is its own sort of laboratory company. And then you have Stable Diffusion, which is a more open-sourced type of software. So all these three was then and are still sort of competing against each other on who makes sort of the best image. And they are good at different things. So for example, Stable Diffusion is a really good tool when you want to create images on sort of quite clear premises. So you can control a lot, but it's also like a very advanced software. So I would say that it's more suitable for professionals. Then you have Mid-Journey, which is more of a creative tool. It's like Photoshop in that sense, that it creates amazing images. It's quite easy to learn. And then you have DALI, which is sort of the most basic software of them all, where you can actually just write something and it pops out.
So that would be a good start. If you want to start looking into this, DALI would be the go-to tool.
Exactly. So those steps: start with DALI, continue to Mid-Journey, and end your career in Stable Diffusion. That's sort of the way I did it.
Yeah, and just when it comes to like creators, I guess there's also discussion: will everyone be replaced now, and what will happen, and what's going on? What do you say about that?
Yeah, no, I don't see that at all. I mean, industries are reshaping and sort of are in a constant change all the time. I mean, when I started as an art director, we had large advertising agencies, but then, you know, new technology appeared and the agency had to sort of adapt to it. Now we have a new thing called AI that agencies need to sort of adapt around. But AI needs input in order to give an output. And the input will always be us as humans and the creators in particularly. So we might need to sort of rethink the whole sort of role and what type of talent that we should be looking for when it comes to a good creator. I would say that sort of knowledge will be key. You need to both be strong with a visual eye, but you also need to sort of know a lot, because creating stuff in AI sort of demands that you have a really good input. And that input comes from your society and the culture around you.
Yeah, because I read some things that there's a limitation, of course, to the innovations and the explorative part, that because AI is basically done or trained on things that have already been discovered. So you need kind of the emotional and the human eye to maybe then still innovate, which I think is fun and good. When it comes to the development now, is there anything that you're waiting for this to explode even more? Are there any like thresholds that technologically that we're waiting for? Yeah,
no, for sure. So if we talk about still images and sort of graphics, I would say that resolution is what sort of holds us back. We have now like custom softwares and models where we can actually create really high-res images, but it takes a long time and it's quite complicated. It's definitely sort of time saving if you would compare it to a regular photo shoot, but it takes time. So it's not like a one click button and then everything is done. But I would say that the big sort of shift will appear when we have a generative AI video that really looks good, because I think that we consume so much more moving content nowadays with YouTube and online streaming, and far less images in that sense. So when Netflix are creating generative AI TV shows, and when the sort of public TV here in Sweden have like generative AI video material, then we will see the big explosion.
Yeah. No, but I think it's really interesting to see this, that it's getting more and more than perfect. Is it too perfect? Because also flipping through it, the images are they're flawless in an almost like a canny, like a scary way. What do you say about that? Are we? Yeah, how do we perceive these, or how do you?
I think that's sort of like just a technical limitation as of now, that we need to have more training material so that the softwares and sort of the tech behind it needs to adapt to the stereotypes and the modern aesthetics that we wanted to achieve. And unfortunately, as of now, the training material is based on old material, which doesn't represent where we want to be as of now. But there are a lot of good softwares that is sort of developing this, and we have working methods where we sort of can get around it and create a much broader creative world.
Yeah, but can the images be done then too perfect so they're not interesting?
I think that depends on who you're talking to. The response that I get from the magazine is both that it looks retro and old, and that it should sort of be more in the forefront, and then the opposite also.
What happens next now? Because I know that chatting with you that there is another issue on the table, I guess, somewhere. What will that be like, and when does that come out?
Yeah, so we're working on the next issue of Copy Magazine. We have been actually working since August. What's quite difficult when you're working on a magazine with images in a technology that is sort of evolving really, really fast now is the fear that what we did in August, September, and October will be outdated when it will reach the retail market in March 2024. But what we are doing right now is that we're sort of collecting images, we're sort of putting the magazine together, but until we sort of finalize the images, that we will do in the end. So if we have like new technology that will mind blow us, then we will sort of redo the whole thing. But it's a lot of fun, and we will explore men's fashion, and we will explore like more sort of in deep of how fashion is sort of reflecting the society and the impact that it also has.
Yeah, because that I think is very interesting also with the first issue, that is in a way a discussion piece that is not only a fashion magazine, but it has like meta levels to it, where it's actually kind of questioning fashion, questioning the way we look at things. And then, as you said, when it comes to the next issue, but diversity and inclusion, and how is the fashion industry working, and how are we looking at things. And I guess also the whole creative business, which I think, as I said, I was really captured. I think it was really, really an interesting piece and a needed discussion, both on tech-wise and perception-wise, but also consumer-wise, so consumption-wise, that I think is really interesting. If you want to give me some advice that I've just started tapping into, I'm not a creative, but I think it would be kind of fun to start exploring some images and also text-wise, I guess both like privately and work. What would be like after the ChatGPT first prompts, what would be like advice to me on how to get into this world?
Yeah, so when I get that question, I usually say that like start with free words and see how those free words are impacting the output. I mean, for example, AI is quite particular in what sort of it listens more to what's in the beginning rather than what's in the end of a sentence. So just by flipping those free words in different orders will give you different outputs. So, for example, if you have an old woman and fashion, then you will both have old woman and old fashion. But if you have sort of fashion before, I think, then and you have woman and then old, then maybe only the woman will be old and the fashion will be new. So just play around with the different words to sort of to see what happens, and then just add wordings, but not too many words. I know that there are a lot of like prompt specialists who have these sort of essays almost, and the fun thing is that AI often only cares about like 5 or 6 words, then the rest is just ignored by it in most cases. So I would sort of start with that, because I think you need to sort of understand the technology, not only because it will make you better, but also because I think it's necessary now when AI will have such a huge impact on our society, so that we sort of understand what's the underlying sort of technology here.
There are a couple of other like abbreviations that are starting to pop in. I don't even want to start trying to replicate them. But what is then next coming? When we have generative AI, then we have couple of other progressions. What
exactly? So we have the AGI, which is the artificial general intelligence, and that is sort of when the AI is sort of on the same level as we as humans are. And then you have the ASI, which is a super intelligence, and that is the sort of the terminative fear, because that is when the AI has greater powers than we have, and when it sort of can solve and do things that we can't even imagine. So many people are scared about it. I'm not that scared, because I think you need to think of it as sort of in theory and in practice. And in theory, ASI is super scary, but in practice, it's not that easy. People still need to sort of build robots, for example. So we need to mine, and we need to gather all the materials, and we need to build them. And of course, robots can do that also. But I think it's a long way, and we will. Just looking at sort of the discussions now, how we will regulate AI and so on, I think that we will be in control. I have to believe that.
Yeah, so you're not worried about a Terminator.
No, that's Hollywood.
Yeah. But I think there are lots of fun or interesting movies, I guess, from like 80s and 90s that were doomsday robotic. Things that where tech was taking over the world. So I guess that some of us grew up with those are of course scared about the super intelligence that will take over everything. Yeah. Thanks a lot for having you and chatting with you. There will be a lot more development, I know, in this area, and I know that today there are also lots of companies that are giving advice in this area. Some of them more or less gold digging, of course, because this is fashionable. So I think it's really good to at least start understanding a little bit more, like from an expert, and this is really what's going on, and this is really what's important. And I'm really looking forward to reading the next edition, the next issue of Copy Magazine.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.